We have a 2003 Chevrolet Avalanche. We're going to go through the steps in order to replace the fuel pump on this vehicle. First, we'll bleed the pressure off the system using our pressure relief valve on our pressure gauge. Always be sure and catch this fuel into a safe container. We want to disconnect the negative battery cable before we begin the repair. Now we will raise the vehicle in order to gain access to the fuel tank. Now we will remove the fuel filler hose and the vent hose. Now we can disconnect the fuel lines. These are a pinch type retainer. It's not required to remove the carbon canister in order to remove the fuel tank. It does ease the removal and installation of the tank. Now we will remove the tank straps. Partially lower the tank and disconnect the electrical connection, making sure to remove the safety retainer.
Lower the tank and remove it from under the vehicle so we can clean the top of the tank in order to keep any debris from getting into the tank when we remove the pump.
Now that we've properly cleaned the outside of the tank, we'll remove the fuel lines from the fuel pump module. We will now remove the fuel line retaining clips. We will reuse them on the new module. We're now ready to remove the fuel pump module from the tank. You'll note the locking tab that we will have to depress in order to turn the locking ring counterclockwise. When removing the lock ring, always use a non-ferrous brass punch. Be sure to inspect the lock ring to make sure it's not damaged in any way that would hinder the reinstallation of it. At the bottom of the fuel pump module is a reservoir. This will contain some fuel that we'll need to capture in a safe container. At this point, we need to drain the remaining fuel into a safe container and then clean the inside of the tank. We want to be sure that the tank is as clean as possible to allow a clean environment for the fuel pump. Now that we've properly cleaned the inside of the fuel tank, we're ready to install our new Airtex fuel pump module. The float arm is attached to the fuel pump module. We'll remove the float arm and install it into our sending unit. Before we install it, we'll need to remove the red protective cap on the end of the sending arm. We will install the sender arm into the sending unit, making sure to snap it into location. Before we install the pump into the tank, we'll slide the tank seal up onto the module assembly. On the flange, there's a locating tab. Also, in the top of the tank is where this locating tab will set. Always make sure not to bend the float arm in any way to distort it. Once we have the fuel pump module setting in the tank at this position, we can install our tank seal. At this point, you can use a light lubricant to lubricate the bottom of the flange to allow it to insert into the tank seal smoothly. Reinstall our lock ring. We will turn the lock ring clockwise with a brass non-ferrous punch. Note the lock ring retainer, making sure that it seats into its position. First, install our fuel line retainers back into the end of the fitting. Then we'll snap the fuel line into place. And reposition it in the holders on the tank. We will remove the fuel line retainer clips from the lines on the vehicle and install them into our fuel lines for ease of installation. Now we can start putting the tank back into the vehicle. With it raised to this level, we can reconnect our electrical connections, making sure to reinstall our safety retainer. Once we have the tank into position, we can reinstall the tank straps. With the tank securely in position, now we can reinstall our carbon canister. You'll note there are 3 fittings on the end of the carbon canister. Each one is a different size. Now we can reconnect our fuel line. Install our filler tube and our vent tube. Now with the installation of the new Airtex fuel pump module completed, we can reconnect our negative battery cable. Cycle the key 2 to 3 times in order to charge the system. We will start the vehicle and monitor fuel pressure, making sure it's within vehicle specifications. To remove the gauge, we'll shut the engine off and bleed the pressure from the system using the pressure relief on the gauge. making sure to capture any fuel in a safe container.